Your data in your business and in your life will always tell a story. You just got to read the fucking book. But when you look at backdating the allocation of your minutes over a given month, now you can just make a list of like, what's some of the shit I could get taken off of my plate?
Yeah. All right, welcome back to Dope Conversations. Dave here has been talking way too much about this 1440. And I'm like, dude, I don't drink anymore.
Right.
He's talking about how many minutes there are in a day. Now, obviously, people talk about 24 hours in a day, but you have it to the minute. And considering your life, your family, your businesses, your desire for certain mental and physical health, it looks like your time is not only valuable, but you need to be meticulous about it. There's a lot of people out here right now, including myself, just sitting right here across from you, who could probably benefit from hearing how you manage your time and the prioritization that goes along with it. So talk to me about 1,440 minutes a day.
I had to Google it when I came up with this track around it.
Yeah.
This was a couple of years ago because I've been kind of on this word track of the 1440 stuff, but I value my time and I value your time just as much, and everyone that I deal with. Like, our minutes are precious. Being a bit of a go-getter, I'm a selfish guy. I really like to do what I like to do.
Yes.
But I have to make time for myself so I can make time for everyone else that depends on me. Like, I'm a morning guy.
Same.
Up early, getting after it. I really appreciate people that can do like the exercises and stuff in the afternoon because I want to be done with my shit. I like to prepare myself for the day, fill up my cup so I can go pour into others.
100.
I kind of put my time into buckets. I'm big on the routines. I'm big on being intentional about my minutes in the morning. So I got my supplements that I take, my AG1, my drinks, my stuff, my like getting myself together. I've gotten really big on meditating. Mm-hmm. Meditating is something that really has helped me appreciate time. My hardest 10 minutes of the day are on that pillow, getting through the meditation, being able to sit there and really like be still, be selfless, be all of it. I go into this place with meditation where it's like the waves in the ocean coming in as a thought, and then I can push them back out and like going through. It's just this, it's so beautiful. But in getting deeper into some of the meditation and the wellness practices, we've talked about it with running. I look forward to the hard. Mm-hmm. If I'm in a 25-minute sauna session at 220 degrees, I like the 21st minute. If I'm running 10 miles, I look forward to the 9th mile. And I'm just like, I'm wired like that, but it came out of me. I wouldn't say that like I'm this David Goggins. I only eat Tom Brady. I only eat an almond every day to get to, it's not that level of discipline. It's more like as you realize that you put yourself in a position where people depend on you, mm-hmm. and depending on where you're at in your life, it could be your spouse, it could be your kids, it could be your business partners, it could be your employees, it could be your friends. Every single relationship you have requires time. And one thing that I learned, say this was like through my journey in prison, is like, I'm just going to give you enough time to be yourself. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to believe you. Just show me. Time will go by that the minutes that I invest or the minutes we invest in our relationship, it expedites it. I have a couple of my friends that I met when I was locked up that when you look at the minutes spent, I spent more minutes with those people than members of my family because of how long we were around each other.
Yes.
And so when I look at the delegation of minutes and like, where do I spend my time? It's very important for me to get the things out of the way in the morning that are like required of me. Yep. The promises I made with myself, the contracts I signed with myself, the wellness, the exercise, the working out, the getting myself ready for the interactions I'm going to have with my kid and my wife and going into some of the meetings that I have during the day. I think a big chunk of your 1440, and there's no science to this. Like, you have to spend this many minutes doing this and this many doing this and whatever. Anyone that is not time blocking during the day is doing themselves a disservice. You got to have time blocked out where you are not available to be booked on a call, pulled into a meeting to do a thing. You just got to be able to spend that time with yourself. You got to be selfish and be able to understand, like, you hear me talk a lot about the person in the mirror. That motherfucker needs some minutes. Yeah. Like, you got to be able to get through that. But I think depending on like in your journey of where you're at, and I specifically say this for like business owners, especially business owners that are parents or that are in a relationship with a significant other, married, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, the things that you feel a lot of the time from 9 to 5, let's call it the work day, probably require a lot less time than you think they do. The effort, the energy. I just had to get held accountable by my wife today. We're going through an unfortunate situation with this like accounting team that we're letting go because they didn't do what they said they were going to do. Yeah. I got an emotional reaction to a response from them about ending our engagement. And my wife had to pull me out of it. And she just said to me, like, how much fucking time are you going to spend being mad about this? It's your choice. You have the decision, but am I going to be burnt up for a minute, an hour? Am I going to carry that into tomorrow? I don't know if you ever any of you guys have heard this. This is like a relationship advice coach, I think, was like, you have to make a promise with your spouse that you're never going to go to sleep mad at each other. Mm-hmm. And it's such an easy thing to say, but it's a harder thing to do.
Yeah.
It was hard to get the kids down. You didn't like dinner or you were late home. Me and my wife made a promise to each other when we first met that like, we just don't fight. Now we bicker like a fucking 70-year-old couple, but that's our love language. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you look at the time invested during the day in any given situation, this is where like journaling and reflection helps a lot. I do some pretty anal shit with my calendar. But I've just gotten to this point where it's required of me. Like, I have an executive assistant. My day is managed. Not like you hear like Gary Vee talk about like to the minute, where it's like this run in gun. That's too fucking hectic and chaotic for me. But my time is managed to half an hour blocks during the day and every day. And we go 9 to 5. I know we all like wake up earlier and probably work a little late or whatever. 2 hours of my day, you can't fuck with me. Mm-hmm. Like, I need that time to be to myself, to catch up on a thing, to whatever, remember to do some shit or whatever. What's been great is like the entrepreneurial world has expanded. I don't know how many people watching or listening are familiar with like VA work or hiring virtual assistants in other parts of the world.
Best hire.
But dude, like, you can hire someone, especially like we have a lot of experience with like South America and the Philippines. Dude, you can hire someone in the Philippines that would be getting paid 80 grand a year over here for like less than $10 an hour.
Yep. And it's gainful employment.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, you can change people's lives.
I cannot emphasize that enough.
I think we need to do a whole episode about that and where it is. We employ 20 people right now between South America and the Philippines inside of dope alone.
Yep.
And we overpay. Like, we do shit to be able to have effects on people's lives and change it. It's really important. We'll talk about that more. But like, it is such an easy hire to find someone to simply like respond to your emails, book your calendar, do your follow-ups. Where like, if you have not explored how to hire someone, and whether it's US based, somewhere else in the world, it doesn't matter. One of the most important things to realize as you're scaling a business is how do you get your minutes back? Mm-hmm. As CEOs, as founders, a lot of us didn't go to school for this shit. You were really good at one thing that helped you start your business, and then you got good at some other shit to propel your business. There's a spot in the leveling up or the phasing where you have to take a step back and not be doing as much of that shit. And again, we have an episode about this with like team building and hiring and that type of stuff. But when you look at the allocation of your minutes, if the average business owner probably works 50 to 60 hours a week, there's an exercise here. It's like, you can go back the past couple weeks or past couple months, just look at your calendar from last week and the week before. I color code my shit. So like a marketing meeting versus a sales meeting versus a biz dev thing. Like, I can look at it now. What's cool with Google Calendar, if you're color coding your shit and you put it in the options that Google have for this, it'll tell you what percentage of your week you're spending on what shit. Your data in your business and in your life will always tell a story. You just got to read the fucking book. And so when you look at like backdating the allocation of your minutes over a given month, now you can just make a list of like, what's some of the shit I could get taken off of my plate? So in that 1440, even if you put in like 30-minute blocks, we joke, right? You got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to shit, you got to play with your kids, you got to do like whatever amount of minutes. And there's science around this stuff. If you sleep for 6 to 8 hours a night, which is pretty common. I know there's studies coming out, you're supposed to sleep more than like 8 an hour, they're saying, but like, let's be fucking real.
Seriously.
I sleep like 4 to 6 hours a night. I think it's, and not that that's advised for anybody, but do what makes you feel good. For me, it's like, if I subtract the time that I sleep, I'm a big guy on fasting. I don't eat a ton when I'm going during the day and shit. But when you look at the amount of time you actually have to be productive versus what you're actually doing a lot of the day, or the things that you're involving yourself on, or where you're spending time, you know what costs the most time for most business owners?
What?
Being frustrated.
No one logs that time.
Not at all. But it's not only the time you spend being frustrated, it's the time that's spent like not focusing on the things because you're distracted. In software development, or business can be called sunk cost. You have an amount of time or money being spent that like no matter how much more you spend, you're not going to get that back.
100%. It
doesn't matter how you've been operating up to this point. A very simple practice is to simply analyze, if I'm working 8 to 10 hours a day, where am I spending my time? And is there someone on my team or someone I can hire, whether it's locally, remotely, whatever, where I can just gain back some of my minutes, because I'm gaining those minutes back to be able to spend them on things that I'm good at, things that I care about, things that I want to be doing. One of the most healthy things to do that a lot of business owners don't talk about is like, you should be taking a walk every day.
Mm-hmm.
You should be stopping your day partway through the day at lunch to get the fuck outside and just get some vitamin D.
It's a game changer.
Get your blood flowing, go through it. And it goes to like these tiny little things that you can do during the day to have the most impact. And I'll get on some of my hippie lifestyle shit quick. It's like, if you get your heart rate up for 20 minutes, you're going to fucking live longer. If you get in a cold plunge for 1 to 3 minutes, you're going to feel better. If you spend 10 minutes meditating, you're going to have a better day. You're going to be more focused. If you can go find a gym or whatever with a sauna and sit in there for 20 minutes, you're literally going to live 50% longer than other people if you do that multiple times a week. You know what? None of that shit that I just said, and none of it had anything to do with, none of it even takes an hour. How many times do you waste an hour during the day being frustrated, being reactive, being spontaneous, having some wild idea that has nothing to do with what you're focused on? If you agree that time is your most valuable currency, then what the fuck are you doing messing around so much, wasting time? We have to put ourselves in a position to take our time more seriously because no one's going to do that shit for us.
Mm-hmm. We do time audits once in a while on my team.
Ooh.
15-minute blocks for the entire workday. It's like, just log everything. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Just
I'm going to borrow that if you don't mind.
Of course, matter of fact. And then at the end of the week, like as you're typing it in, because it's a pain in the ass just to do it, right? But even as you're typing it in, it's like, you already know. Why was I checking my email again? So we don't leave anything out. So that's one thing. Or there's an app called Clockify, you could put on your desktop or whatever, and it'll just log everything that you're doing, the time spending a task. But anyway, really good tips. I love the mental health aspect of it all. You're a less is more type guy. I'm the same way. Tell us 2 things every entrepreneur is probably spending too much time on right now.
Every entrepreneur or business owner is probably checking their phone, their messages, their emails way too often. None of that shit fucking matters. As reactive as you think it is, or as spontaneous you are, how quick you are to get back to something, none of that shit matters in the big grand scheme of things. Yeah. The other thing is like, you're spending too much time on things that are not about you. You hear me say a lot, like you got to fill up your cup to be able to pour into someone else's. You got to fucking figure out what you like more, cardio or lifting weights, because you got to fucking do one of them.
Yeah.
You have to. We'll get into the discipline conversations in another episode, but it's like, stop checking your notifications and fucking around on your phone so much. Hold yourself accountable for how many times you're checking Facebook and Instagram during the day, because all you're looking for is a notification about something you put up yesterday and it doesn't fucking matter. The other side is like, stop expecting everything to be fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Because you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's analysis paralysis and understanding that like business is simply the act of moving boulders. And Stonehenge wasn't built in a fucking day. The pyramids weren't built they were built by aliens, actually. Yeah. That's for another talk. Take some time to be grateful. You're not spending enough time counting your wins as opposed to being frustrated with your losses. There's a book called The Gap and the Gain that fucking changed my life. If you haven't read it, you should. Everyone. I'll end on this note. You're probably spending too much time in the gap. The what ifs, the what shoulds, the what could have beens, and not as much time practicing. I don't have to do this. I get to do this. Mm-hmm.